Far beyond Neptune's frozen orbit, where sunlight fades into pale blue darkness, something unseen moves with purpose. The planets of our solar system, each following its graceful path, feel a faint tug, a rhythm slightly out of tune. Astronomers have traced that rhythm for decades, yet its source remains hidden. They call it Planet 9. Not because it has been seen, but because something massive must be there, bending the architecture of the solar system in ways that cannot be ignored. Imagine the solar system as a calm sea. Each planet is a wave moving in perfect harmony around a central sun. But somewhere at the edge of this ocean, a deeper current stirs, unseen, yet strong enough to reshape the surface. That current is the mystery scientists are trying to name, the ghost world whose presence is felt in mathematics, not light. Somewhere beyond the Kuiper Belt, where ancient comets sleep and frozen rocks drift through a cradle of silence, there may exist a planet 10 times the mass of Earth, orbiting so far away that 1 year there could last more than 10,000 of ours. Yet, through all our telescopes, through all our searching eyes, nothing has ever reflected back. If you're listening as you drift toward sleep, that's why these stories exist. Subscribe and share where you are and what time it is. I read them. New York at midnight, London before dawn, Sydney in daylight, like constellations of listeners spread across the earth, each of us looking into the same dark sky. The narrator's voice softens. Planet 9 is more than a rumor, it's an echo. In 2016, astronomers Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown studied the strange orbits of distant icy bodies. Sedna 2012 VP113, and others moving in oddly aligned paths. Their trajectories pointed to a gravitational shepherd, something invisible guiding them from afar. The evidence wasn't direct, but the mathematics whispered consistently. A presence was bending their paths, pulling them into a quiet pattern too deliberate to be random. And yet, no telescope has seen it. The region is too faint, too far, too shrouded in cosmic dusk. Even the most powerful observatories catch only pinpricks of light swallowed by distance. Still, scientists listen for the hidden gravity, mapping every shift, every wobble in the dance of outer worlds. In the darkness, the solar system is far from empty. Countless icy fragments drift there, ancient travelers left behind when the planets first formed. Some are tilted, others pulled into long, stretched loops. Together they tell a story written not in words but in orbital curves. It's as if something out there is sculpting the edges of our celestial neighborhood with invisible hands. For decades, researchers dismissed these patterns as coincidence. But as data grew, coincidences became too precise. A pattern emerged, 6 distant orbits clustered in the same direction, their perihelia, the points closest to the Sun, aligned as if following a hidden leader. The odds of that alignment happening by chance? Less than 0.1%. So the hunt began. The search for Planet 9 is not a chase for discovery, it's a search for confirmation of what gravity already knows. Telescopes in Chile, Hawaii, and even Antarctica have turned their lenses outward, scanning regions where predictions say it should be. But the object remains elusive, hidden in a patch of sky so dark that sunlight barely reaches it. The narrator paints an image, a faint dot wandering through the backdrop of stars, moving so slowly that even decades of watching may only capture a whisper of its motion. Its orbit is so vast that it could be midway through its journey around the Sun since the first humans learned to write. There's a certain humility in this mystery. For all our instruments and knowledge, space still keeps its secrets well. Planet 9, if it exists, is a reminder that our solar system isn't a finished map, it's a living, changing place. The edge isn't an end, it's an invitation. Soft ambient music fades beneath the narration, like wind moving through frozen glass. The listener can almost feel the weight of the unknown, a gravitational murmur pressing on everything we think we understand. Scientists debate whether the anomaly could instead be the collective effect of many smaller objects, or perhaps even a distortion in our calculations. Some suggest a rogue planet, captured from another star long ago. Others wonder if it might not be a planet at all but something stranger, a dark remnant, a miniature black hole, silent and patient. Each theory adds another layer to the cosmic whisper. Even as we search, the unseen continues to influence what we can see. Comets change course, icy debris tilts slightly, and the farthest regions of the solar system pulse with faint gravitational harmonies. Somewhere in that quiet geometry lies a truth, ancient, massive, and waiting. The narrator pauses, letting the silence stretch. It's easy to imagine that somewhere out there, beyond the light of our sun, an invisible traveler glides through the dark. It casts no glow, leaves no trail, but its presence shapes everything closer to home. If you look up tonight, past the glitter of familiar stars, know that you're gazing toward that hidden frontier, the deep cold where the solar system ends and the unknown begins. Somewhere in that void, gravity hums softly, a lullaby that only the planets can hear. And in that stillness, one thought lingers like starlight fading through mist. If this world casts a shadow, what exactly is hiding behind it? Beyond Neptune, sunlight fades into a deep cobalt blue. The warmth of our star becomes a memory, and the solar system enters its silent outskirts, the Kuiper Belt. Here, trillions of icy relics drift through space, remnants from creation's earliest hour. Each one moves slowly, obedient to gravity's quiet pull. But among this frozen ballet, some orbits seem different. Their paths curve together as if tracing an invisible contour. Something unseen is shaping their motion. Astronomers noticed this decades ago, though the pattern was easy to dismiss. A statistical fluke, perhaps. But as the data deepened, the alignment persisted. Tiny worlds like Sedna 2012 VP113, and others orbit far beyond Pluto, all pointing their elongated ellipses in nearly the same direction. The odds of such order emerging by chance are vanishingly small. Somewhere in that darkness, a massive hand seems to be steering them. The narrator's voice drifts like starlight. Imagine standing on one of those distant worlds. The sun would look no brighter than a pale star, and the Milky Way would spill across the black sky in silvery fire. The faint pull you'd feel, gentle, steady, ancient, might not even come from the sun at all. Something else moves. There, heavy and slow, hidden behind a veil of cold dust. Scientists hesitate to call it Planet 9 outright. The evidence is gravitational, not visual. No telescope has captured its light. The narrator explains softly that the most powerful observatories, like Subaru in Hawaii or the Dark Energy Survey in Chile, have scoured the heavens with digital eyes sensitive enough to see objects millions of times fainter than the naked eye could ever detect. Yet, Planet 9 remains invisible. Each discovery makes the mystery grow. It's as if the solar system is whispering clues but refusing to reveal its face. The orbits of these icy bodies behave like sentences written around an unseen word, an unspoken presence that defines their shape without appearing in the text. In this calm narration, the listener can almost hear the cold wind of space, the faint hum of instruments collecting photons that left their source before civilization began. Some astronomers describe the anomaly as a gravitational echo, an unseen mass warping the orbits of everything nearby. Others think it could be the combined tug of many smaller bodies, a distributed weight rather than a single planet. Yet the numbers disagree. The pull feels too focused, too deliberate. As the chapter deepens, the narrator draws comparisons to history. When Uranus behaved oddly in the 1800s, it led to the discovery of Neptune. Deviations in Neptune's orbit once hinted at a further world, Planet X, though later proved false. Each time, it was gravity's silent whisper that led us forward. The pattern now unfolding in the Kuiper Belt feels like that again, but quieter, more reluctant, as though the universe is testing how well we listen. In the soft glow of starlight, scientists speak carefully. Some publish cautious words, anomalous clustering of orbital elements. Others avoid conclusions altogether, noting only the statistical weight of the phenomenon. The silence feeds speculation. Outside academia, theories bloom like frost. Some imagine a rogue planet captured long ago. Others whisper about something darker, a fragment of a failed sun or a gravitational phantom left over from another system. The narrator's tone remains calm and balanced. It could be nothing. Could be everything. A telescope pans across the void in our mind's eye, scanning pixel by pixel. Between each star lies endless night, but within that night, there are shapes, faint motions too slow for human time. If one of those cold points is Planet 9, it would take thousands of years to complete its orbit. It might be 5 to 10 times Earth's mass, cloaked in methane frost, reflecting barely any sunlight at all. Its existence would reshape our understanding of the solar system, not as 8 planets around one sun, but as a vast archipelago where one giant still hides beyond the horizon. The narrator slows, the tone turning introspective. If Planet 9 exists, it has always been there. Long before Earth cooled, before oceans formed, it traced its silent path through the dark. And while we built telescopes and names for constellations, it kept moving, unseen, unbothered, yet influencing everything. In that thought lies a paradox, something invisible shaping everything we see. The narrator likens it to human thought, how ideas, though unseen, shape worlds, movements, civilizations. Planet 9 becomes a metaphor for mystery itself, a reminder that not everything guiding us can be observed. The soundscape softens again, the faint crackle of static, the echo of a distant pulse from space probes still drifting outward. Voyager 1 and 2 are now in interstellar space, but even they have not seen this shadow. Their instruments measure nothing but the thinning breath of solar wind, merging into the quiet between stars. Somewhere beyond them, perhaps by billions of miles, the hidden traveler moves unseen. Then a gentle shift. The narrator speaks of motion, not stillness. If gravity speaks in patterns, then these orbits are its language. The arcs of Sedna, the tilt of 2015 TG387, the synchronized angles, they are the grammar of the unseen. And just as poets hear rhythm in silence, astronomers hear gravity in data. But what is gravity saying? Is it calling attention to something real? Or is it testing our perception, reminding us that science is, at its heart, an act of faith in the measurable unknown? The music fades to a faint, shimmering hum, like a heartbeat stretched thin across eternity. In that hum, we feel the universe breathing. Every particle of dust, every wandering body, every tiny world frozen in shadow is part of the same conversation, spoken in the language of motion. And just before the chapter closes, the narrator whispers, "If gravity speaks in patterns, then we are listening to a message older than the sun." The voice trails off into stillness. The silence deepens, and within that silence lies something waiting to be understood. Long before telescopes began mapping the heavens in high resolution, the idea of hidden worlds stirred in the minds of early astronomers. The night sky, to them, was not just a canvas of stars, it was a coded map, full of silences waiting to be interpreted. When Uranus was discovered in 1781, it was as if the solar system had whispered a new truth. There was more to see, more to know. Yet even then, its orbit betrayed something else. Tiny deviations that hinted at an unseen companion tugging from the dark. In the mid-19th century, those whispers became equations. French mathematician Urbain Le Verrier calculated the strange pull on Uranus and predicted another world beyond it. His math led to Neptune's discovery, exactly where he said it would be. The triumph was breathtaking, a world found not through light but through logic. But Le Verrier's work didn't stop there. He noticed more anomalies, tiny discrepancies even Neptune couldn't explain. There had to be something else, a darker, more distant mass twisting the fabric of orbits. Thus, the search for Planet X began. For decades, Planet X became both a mystery and a dream. The early 20th century brought Percival Lowell, a man of quiet obsession. In the cold desert nights of Arizona, he built an observatory under skies so clear they looked hollow. Lowell believed the strange motions of Uranus and Neptune pointed to an undiscovered planet far beyond. He spent years searching, poring over photographic plates under lamplight, marking faint dots among millions. Each glimmer could have been dust, or destiny. His calculations were bold but imperfect. The world he imagined never quite matched what was later found. After his death, Clyde Tombaugh continued the search and in 1930 discovered Pluto, a tiny, icy object barely a fraction of what Lowell expected. The world rejoiced. They believed Planet X had been found. Yet Pluto was too small, too light. The gravitational riddle remained unsolved. The narrator's voice softens, as if remembering a shared disappointment. The candle had burned, it says, but the darkness had not moved. The search for Planet X faded into myth. Some called it superstition. Others quietly kept looking. Then came the space age. The Voyager missions, launched in the late 1970s, carried humankind's eyes farther than any before. As they drifted through the outer solar system, they mapped magnetic fields, winds, and the faint gravitational fingerprints of everything nearby. By the time Voyager 2 passed Neptune, it revealed that earlier orbital irregularities were due not to a missing planet, but to miscalculated masses. Planet X once again seemed to dissolve into silence. But the silence was deceptive. In the 1980s and 1990s, new data hinted that something massive might still be lurking far beyond Pluto. Infrared sky surveys occasionally detected faint, unexplained heat signatures. Most were dismissed as background galaxies or cold gas clouds. Yet the idea of a hidden planet never fully left scientific memory, it lingered like a half-forgotten dream. The narrator's tone grows wistful, wrapping the listener in a soft hum of nostalgia. Science never truly forgets, it murmurs. It only waits for better instruments. Fast forward to the 21st century. As telescopes evolved and supercomputers learned to simulate cosmic mechanics, the old whispers returned. Objects at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, Sedna 2012 VP113 and others, began to behave oddly. Their orbits were too aligned, their paths too tilted. It was as though some invisible shepherd guided them along a secret route. Astronomers began to re-examine Lowell's ghost, now under a new name, Planet 9. Unlike its predecessors, Planet 9 wasn't being searched for in brightness, but in influence. The narrator likens it to a phantom wind shaping the sails of invisible ships. Scientists Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown proposed that a planet 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth could explain the peculiar clustering of distant objects. But even they admitted the proof was indirect. A pattern in motion, a mathematical echo. The story turns quiet again. In truth, the narrator says, we've always chased the unseen. From ancient Babylonian star maps to the marble observatories of Jaipur, humans have traced the heavens not only for answers but for meaning. We drew gods into the constellations, destinies into their alignments. When our equations replaced myth, the longing remained, unchanged, just renamed. Somewhere in the forgotten archives of 17th century Europe, astronomers once recorded faint, wandering lights near the edges of known space. They dismissed them as errors, specks on glass, tricks of light. But when those same coordinates are compared with today's simulations, the alignment is uncanny. It's as if the past briefly glimpsed what we now seek, only to lose it to time. The narrator invites the listener to imagine a parchment in candlelight, an astronomer's trembling hand sketching stars, unknowingly tracing the shadow of Planet 9 centuries before it had a name. Every era, the voice continues, believes it is the first to discover mystery. Yet the sky keeps its continuity. It remembers what we forget. There is poetry in this repetition. Every few generations, a new Planet X emerges under a new name. Each discovery attempts to finish the story the last began. But perhaps the story was never meant to end, only to echo, each voice adding a layer to the same cosmic question. Are we truly alone in our system, or do hidden worlds drift just beyond the edge of sight? The chapter slows as if time itself were breathing. The solar system, once seen as a completed family of 8, now feels unfinished again. At the edge of Neptune's path, something unseen tugs faintly, patient as the centuries. The pattern repeats, the math whispers, and old names resurface in modern papers. Lowell, Leverrier, Tombaugh. The ghosts of prediction have returned, not as myths but as data reborn. And still, the final answer remains out of reach. The instruments grow sharper, the computers faster, but the mystery deepens. Maybe the truth was glimpsed long ago, not with precision but with intuition. Maybe those forgotten astronomers didn't miscalculate, they simply dreamed too far ahead. As the voice fades, the listener can almost hear the turning of ancient pages, the rustle of starlight through glass. The narrator's tone becomes almost a whisper. Perhaps we are not discovering Planet 9 at all. Perhaps we are remembering it. The silence stretches, filled with the quiet rhythm of orbits unseen. Then, softly, almost like a sigh drifting through the dark, did the past already know what we're rediscovering now? And somewhere, between memory and mathematics, another secret begins to awaken. Far beyond Neptune's reach, where sunlight turns thin and faint as a whisper, invisible patterns begin to emerge. The frozen remnants of ancient creation, icy worlds, dwarf planets, and drifting debris, move in orbits that make no sense. Their paths are tilted, their perihelia clustered, as if an unseen hand has tugged them out of line. This is where the story of Planet 9 becomes less about sight and more about mathematics. Astronomers turn to equations, the quiet, elegant language of gravity. On vast computer screens, trajectories curve like ribbons through darkness. Each data point, each orbit, is a voice in a silent choir, all singing of something massive lurking just beyond view. In these models, a hidden presence bends the edges of the solar system, its gravity shaping paths like a painter dragging a brush through liquid starlight. The calculations are consistent. The pull is real. Yet no telescope has ever caught its glow. In the labs and observatories scattered across the world, scientists watch simulations unfold. They map hundreds of distant icy objects, Sedna, Leliaquanua, and others with names as mysterious as their journeys. When plotted, their orbits seem to gather around an unseen center, as if tracing the rim of a vast shadow. To some, it feels like a whisper from the universe, there is something there. To others, it's only a coincidence, a trick of limited data. But the numbers refuse to quiet down. The gravitational math demands an explanation. Something with 10 times the mass of Earth must be there, drifting, cold, unseen. A world without sunlight, so far from its star that centuries could pass before it completes a single orbit. The narrator's voice lowers, calm but deliberate, describing this world not as an intruder, but as an old companion. One that's always been there, shaping the edges of our cosmic home while hiding in silence. Imagine tracing these invisible lines yourself. Each orbit curves and bends like a glowing thread against a black canvas. You follow one and it drifts outward, looping away from the known planets. Another crosses it, then another, until the pattern becomes clear. A cluster, a pull, a secret geometry drawn by something unseen. The narrator's tone slows, almost hypnotic. This is not chaos. This is choreography. The computer models breathe life into these invisible dancers. When the simulated planet 9 is added to the equations, the chaos dissolves. The strange orbits settle into harmony. The frozen worlds line up, as though responding to a conductor's baton. Remove the planet from the math and the harmony collapses again. The data feels like evidence, too consistent to ignore, too elusive to prove. But space does not give up its secrets easily. Telescopes search the skies where the models point, yet nothing shines back. Even the most powerful instruments, infrared and optical alike, find only silence. Perhaps the world is cloaked in darkness, its surface frozen beyond imagination, reflecting almost no light. Or perhaps it's smaller than we think, or farther, moving so slowly that it masquerades as a distant star. Gravity, however, cannot lie. Its pull shapes everything, even in absence. The narrator compares it to a faint melody playing behind closed doors. We cannot see the musician, but the tune is unmistakable. Each orbit is a note, each alignment a measure, and together they hint at something vast, an unseen planet guiding the music of the outer solar system. Sometimes when astronomers speak about it, their words carry a strange duality, hope and hesitation. They've seen the math align before, only for the sky to disagree. Yet this time the consistency runs deep, across datasets, across teams, across years. It's as though the universe itself keeps hinting at the same secret, waiting for us to listen in the right frequency. The narrator invites the listener to imagine standing at the edge of existence, watching the solar system's faint glow recede into black. Out there, the sun is no brighter than a star. The planets shrink into glimmers, the stars grow more crowded, and somewhere in that endless calm, an invisible traveler drifts, too far for warmth, too quiet for light, but close enough to be felt. Every few years, new discoveries emerge. Another trans-Neptunian object, another orbit slightly out of place. Each adds to the map, like breadcrumbs through a forest of darkness. The more we find, the clearer the pattern becomes. But the shadow remains, a gravity without a face. To some, it's poetic, the idea that the solar system hides a secret companion, a silent guardian at the frontier of sunlight. To others, it's unnerving. If we cannot even map the boundaries of our own cosmic home, what does that say about how little we truly know? The universe, it seems, still holds its cards close, revealing just enough to keep us dreaming. As the narrator's tone softens, the listener can almost hear the slow rhythm of the cosmos, the endless spiral of motion, the balance between what's seen and what's only imagined. The trajectories of these icy bodies are not random marks on a chart. They are messages written in the language of gravity. To read them is to glimpse the architecture of something greater, a design we can sense but not yet see. And so the chapter closes like a breath drawn in the dark. The orbits keep looping, tracing invisible circles around an unseen center. The equations keep whispering their truth. The silence, though patient, feels alive. If the pattern is real, why do we still see only its shadow? Perhaps the answer drifts just beyond our reach, waiting, as all great mysteries do, for the moment when we finally look in the right direction. At the edge of our solar system, sunlight weakens into a pale breath, a faint echo that barely reaches the frozen frontier. Beyond Neptune, beyond even the scattered fragments of the Kuiper belt, space becomes a sea of silence. Here, temperatures fall to nearly -400 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat of creation no longer survives. Every motion slows, every sound fades. The narrator's voice drifts like the solar wind. This is the cold horizon, where light itself seems hesitant to travel. Imagine standing at that boundary, surrounded by nothing but the soft glitter of ancient ice. The sun, once blazing and dominant, has become a dim star, no brighter than Venus seen from Earth. Shadows stretch endlessly, blue and brittle, across a plain of darkness. Out here, the solar system ends not with a wall, but with a whisper. Each grain of frozen dust is a relic, each drifting particle a messenger from the dawn of time. For centuries, astronomers believed this realm was empty, a quiet abyss before the void of interstellar space. But recent studies suggest otherwise. Something moves here. Its gravity is faint but firm, tugging at the orbits of distant worlds. Tiny icy bodies called trans-Neptunian objects shift in strange harmony, as if pulled by an unseen hand. The calculations don't lie, something massive lurks beyond. Yet every telescope that turns toward this direction finds nothing. No glow, no reflection, not even a silhouette. It's as though the universe itself refuses to reveal what lies past the frontier. The narrator describes this silence not as absence, but as resistance, a cold fortress drifting in the dark, guarding its secret. Scientists run simulations, tracing orbits and alignments like ancient navigators reading constellations. Each path curves toward an invisible point, a gravitational phantom that shapes their motion. Planet 9, or perhaps its shadow, seems to reside here, hidden just beyond the reach of light. The human imagination fills the void where instruments fail. Some picture a frozen giant cloaked in methane and ice, reflecting sunlight so faintly that it vanishes into background noise. Others imagine something stranger, a world coated in pitch-black dust, absorbing nearly all light that touches it. It might be a planet captured long ago from another star system, a foreign body wandering in exile. Or perhaps it's not a planet at all, but something we haven't yet defined, a rogue fragment of creation too old to shine, too cold to reveal itself. The narrator's tone slows, like the heartbeat of space itself. Our telescopes scan in infrared, hunting for any flicker of heat. But at this distance, even warmth becomes theory. Detectors strain, data streams pulse faintly, and silence remains dominant. The cold horizon is more than a region, it's a mirror. Every time we look outward and see nothing, we're reminded of how little we truly know. Through poetic calm, the story shifts to sensory detail. The airless dark feels vast and weightless. Tiny particles drift in slow motion, their paths curved by distant gravity. The narrator likens them to embers cooling after a fire that once filled the galaxy with light. Beyond them, the Oort cloud, an immense sphere of icy debris, stretches for trillions of miles. Somewhere in that frozen mist, something moves too slowly for our eyes to catch. In ancient times, sailors feared the edge of the map. "Here be dragons," they would write, warning others of places where knowledge failed. The cold horizon is our modern version of that fear, a frontier of numbers and silence. Each new discovery draws us closer to admitting that we don't know what lies beyond. And yet, that unknowing is what keeps us looking. Every once in a while, a faint anomaly flickers through the data, a dot moving where none should exist. Analysts debate, was it a background star, a cosmic ray, a glitch? Each potential sighting fades into uncertainty, swallowed by the darkness that defines this place. The cold here is not merely physical, it's the absence of answers. But even silence speaks if one listens closely enough. The narrator describes the gravitational field as a faint hum, a cosmic whisper beneath the noise of the universe. Its rhythm suggests motion, mass, intention. Something is out there, tugging gently, unseen yet undeniable. The orbits of distant objects curve in reply, their paths bending like reeds in wind we cannot feel. In the calm of this chapter, tension begins to rise, not in fear but in wonder. What if the cold horizon isn't empty at all? What if our instruments are simply too limited to perceive its vastness? The thought drifts softly, like starlight through fog. Beyond this point, the solar system's architecture may not end, but expand, into regions still uncharted, where physics begins to blur with imagination. The narrator recalls how Voyager 1, the farthest human-made object, now drifts more than 15 billion miles from Earth. Its signal is weak but steady, crossing the cold divide. If it could turn its tiny camera backward, it would see nothing but blackness, the sun reduced to a single pale spark. Yet even from there, the spacecraft feels the pull of gravity from home. That same pull reaches outward into the unknown, stretching invisibly toward whatever waits beyond. As the pace slows, the narration grows quieter, as if the voice itself were fading with the sunlight. The music of the universe here is subsonic, vibrations not sound. If one could stand at the edge of the Oort cloud, the stars would seem frozen in place. Time would feel different, like an endless twilight between worlds. And in that stillness, perhaps something watches back, patient, waiting to be found. The chapter closes with a reflection, not an answer. Maybe the frontier isn't empty. Maybe our eyes, built for daylight, are blind to the colors of this shadowed realm. The cosmos hides nothing out of malice. It simply waits until we're ready to understand. And so the question lingers in the quiet. Is this frontier truly barren, or are our tools simply too small for the scale of its mystery? The deep space antennas stand like sentinels, rising from deserts and frozen plains, giant white dishes tilted toward eternity. Night after night they listen. What they seek is not sound but rhythm, a faint hum hidden in the cosmic background, the whisper of something massive drifting through the dark. Beyond Neptune's lonely orbit, beyond even Pluto's faded light, there is movement. Subtle, deliberate, impossible to trace by sight. Scientists call it noise. But in the quiet between data streams, some hear a pattern. Radio telescopes across the globe are synchronized, forming a network that listens as one. They turn their metallic ears toward the suspected region of Planet 9's orbit, an expanse of darkness stretching hundreds of astronomical units from the Sun. What they record is not a single frequency but a pulse, flickering, uneven, recurring as if the universe itself is breathing. The signal grows, fades, then disappears entirely, replaced by static as gentle as snowfall. In control rooms lit by monitors and coffee steam, scientists lean closer. They adjust the gain, refine the filters, cross-check for interference. Cosmic rays, distant quasars, passing satellites. Everything must be ruled out before they can name a discovery. And yet, something remains. Something faint, repeating with the patience of stone. The narrator's voice softens. The silence between these bursts feels alive, as though the sky is holding its breath. In those pauses, even machines seem to listen harder. What could make a signal appear and vanish like a ghost? Perhaps it's just the slow spin of a hidden planet, its magnetic field briefly aligning with ours. Or perhaps it's a dance between light and gravity, radio waves bending around a massive orbiting shadow, echoing back distorted and delayed. The data grows stranger. On some nights, the pulse shifts in frequency, almost like a voice modulating across a distance we cannot measure. Other times, it's gone completely, leaving only a trembling baseline of cosmic background radiation, the universe's oldest hum. Scientists debate endlessly, real signal or random coincidence, natural process or something we have not yet learned to name. The narrator describes the sky as a vast ocean of frequencies, where every wavelength is a ripple left by something ancient. To find Planet 9 is to look for a single wave in an infinite sea. The telescopes listen not for words but for patterns, gentle alignments in timing, phase, and energy. Even the faintest correlation becomes a clue, like footsteps half buried in sand. Outside, under the cold sweep of starlight, the dishes keep moving, slowly, silently, as if guided by instinct. Their metal surfaces catch moonlight, gleaming like shells scattered across an empty beach. Somewhere millions of miles away, a cold object may be drifting through its long orbit, indifferent to the attention it commands. If Planet 9 exists, it does not wish to be found. The narrator recalls the early days of radio astronomy, the first time humanity pointed antennas toward the heavens and mistook pulsars for messages from other worlds. We've been fooled by silence before. We've also been awakened by it. The universe rarely speaks directly. It prefers whispers, faint alignments, gaps filled with imagination. And yet, the more data collected, the clearer the rhythm seems. Once every few months, telescopes in Chile, California, and Australia register a coordinated flicker, unrelated to solar flares or cosmic interference. Could it be the reflection of solar wind off something enormous and metallic? Or perhaps the frozen surface of a planet so far away its orbit takes tens of thousands of years to complete? The narration slows, the tone dropping into a soft murmur. Not all silence is absence. In physics, silence can mean equilibrium, a point where forces cancel perfectly, creating stillness not from emptiness but from balance. Perhaps Planet 9's signal is such a silence, the exact point where its gravity pulls against the sun's, leaving a subtle echo across spacetime itself. Scientists often speak cautiously. Their papers use words like tentative and inconclusive. But beyond the academic restraint lies something deeply human: wonder. The quiet awe that comes from realizing the universe still hides entire worlds in plain darkness. We're not sure, one researcher says in an interview, whether we're hearing the planet or hearing ourselves searching for it. The narrator smiles through the voice. Maybe the signal is both. Maybe it's the universe answering softly, mirroring our own curiosity back to us. The cosmos has always reflected the questions we ask. Every orbit, every flare, every anomaly is both mystery and reply. As data continues to pour in, algorithms scan for patterns no human could see. Artificial intelligence listens differently, without fatigue, without expectation. It hears the noise and rearranges it, finding symmetries invisible to human patience. And in those symmetries, something beautiful emerges. A repeating harmony, almost melodic, stretching across months of observation. Whether it's data compression, interference, or something cosmic, no one knows. The narrator compares it to a heartbeat, steady, rhythmic, but fragile. Maybe, the voice says softly, this is how the universe breathes. The telescopes continue their vigil, unmoving yet alive, recording night after night, the whisper of a hidden traveler. Eventually morning comes. The great dishes tilt toward the horizon, resting. Scientists close their notebooks, save their files, and leave the control rooms to silence. But above them, the stars remain. Each one burns as it has for billions of years, indifferent to the human search below. And somewhere far beyond Pluto's frozen glow, a faint pulse may still be drifting through the void, waiting to be found again. The narrator's final words hang in the still air. Maybe the signal doesn't vanish. Maybe it simply hides in the quiet between frequencies, where no machine can hear, only those willing to listen beyond sound itself. The voice softens to a whisper, the silence deepens, yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. What if the silence itself is the message? Far beyond the reach of sunlight, in the quiet outskirts of the solar system, there is an unseen order guiding the drift of worlds. Each small icy body, each lonely object beyond Neptune, moves along a precise path, as if following an invisible hand. This chapter begins in silence, a soft pulse of mathematics and motion, a whisper of balance in the dark. Astronomers call it the architecture of orbits, a geometry written not in ink but in gravity itself. Through computer models and decades of data, astrophysicists have traced the subtle tilt of the solar system's outermost regions. Something massive seems to pull the entire plane of motion by a few degrees, warping the disk that holds all known orbits. The effect is faint but persistent, as though the solar system were a clock slightly bent under the weight of an unseen pendulum. The narrator's voice softens, describing how this discovery came quietly. When teams at Caltech mapped the trajectories of distant trans-Neptunian objects, they noticed a strange harmony. These icy wanderers, Sedna, Leliaquanua, and others, were not scattered randomly as once believed. Their orbits clustered together, aligned toward the same region of space, as though bowing to a distant king. The equations did not lie. Something large, perhaps 5 or 10 times the mass of Earth, was shaping their paths from the edge of darkness. Imagine it visually, thousands of glowing arcs traced through blackness, each orbit bending inward at the same angle. The lines weave together, forming what looks like a delicate web suspended across the void. It's not chaos. It's choreography. The solar system, it seems, performs a dance choreographed by a partner we cannot see. In the calm tone of the Science for Sleep voice, the narrator compares this to a wind blowing through tall grass. You can't see the wind itself, only the way it moves everything else. Planet 9's gravity, if it exists, is that wind. The pull of its orbit is silent, invisible, but its influence leaves fingerprints across millions of miles. Some astronomers resist the idea. They point out that data can deceive, that small sample sizes and chance alignments may mimic structure. Yet, as the years pass and new discoveries are added to the map, the pattern only grows clearer. There is something mathematical about it, something that feels designed, though nature needs no designer to create beauty. The narrator pauses, letting the listener imagine floating at the edge of this structure. Out here, the stars appear sharper, colder. The sun is a distant pearl, its warmth reduced to a whisper. Every frozen world traces its perfect curve, guided by the unseen geometry. It feels less like randomness, more like a blueprint hidden in the dark. The music softens, harp tones fading beneath a hum of distant radio static. The narrator continues, the tilt of the solar system might be the signature of this hidden world. Even our own planetary plane leans slightly, as though bowing under invisible weight. Some suggest that this tilt is a relic of a collision long ago, others that it is the ongoing influence of a planet moving on an elliptical orbit that takes thousands of years to complete a single loop around the sun. This planet, if it exists, is not where we expect it to be. Its path is elongated, an oval that carries it tens of billions of miles away before returning again. For most of its journey, it would reflect so little light that even the most powerful telescopes would fail to catch it. It's a ghost orbiting the sun, too dark to see, too patient to reveal itself quickly. The narrator gently compares it to a dancer who moves only in shadows, whose steps can be read only through the ripples they leave behind. And yet, these ripples are everywhere, faint, consistent, deliberate. In every small object that curves the same way, in every orbital cluster that points toward the same region, the signature repeats. What fascinates scientists most isn't just the physics, it's the precision. Nature rarely repeats patterns by accident. The universe, vast as it is, favors elegance. The hidden geometry may be a sign of that universal rule, the idea that order hides inside apparent chaos, waiting to be discovered by those who listen closely enough. The narrator's tone becomes slower, quieter, as if the voice itself were drifting through the dark between worlds. When we look at these alignments, it says, we're not just studying motion, we're studying memory. The solar system remembers its formation, every tug and collision leaving marks written into its orbits. What we see today may be the echo of an ancient encounter, perhaps with another star, perhaps with something still traveling out there, something that never left. Some models suggest that Planet 9 could have been captured from another system, drawn in during the Sun's early years when young stars still drifted close to one another. If so, it would be an interstellar visitor bound by chance, a foreign traveler now dictating the rhythm of our outer worlds. The image feels poetic, a borrowed planet shaping the balance of a family it wasn't born into. The camera of the mind zooms out. Picture the solar system as a vast mobile, each planet spinning gracefully, connected by invisible threads of force. Far beyond Neptune, one string moves slightly off balance and the entire sculpture tilts. That is the hidden geometry, an elegant distortion, a subtle symmetry that no one can see directly but everyone can feel through equations and motion. The narrator whispers again, every system has its architect, even if the architect is only gravity. Gravity builds and sculpts without intention, yet its results feel purposeful, as though the universe knows how to write poetry in mathematics. Silence settles again, soft and endless. The soundscape fades into faint wind-like tones, the imagined hum of solar wind brushing against frozen debris. The narrator's final reflection arrives like a drifting thought. Perhaps the beauty of this hidden structure is not in what it reveals, but in what it keeps secret. Every orbit tells part of the story, yet none show the whole design. The voice fades to a whisper, almost indistinguishable from the background hum of the stars. If the universe has structure, it asks softly, who designed the pattern of its shadows? And then the silence deepens, peaceful, infinite, yet carrying the faint sense that something somewhere is still moving beneath it. Beyond the bright orbit of Neptune, where the sun is no more than a pale coin in an endless dusk, the solar system grows quiet. Here the heat of creation has long faded. The only motion is the slow drift of icy debris, comets, dwarf planets, and forgotten fragments of the early cosmos. They circle the sun like ancient ghosts, their paths delicate and strange. But some of those paths do not behave the way they should. Astronomers have noticed it for years now, objects whose orbits curve too sharply, tilt too steeply, or stretch too far from the ecliptic plane. Their trajectories look like threads pulled by invisible fingers. When plotted together, these lines form patterns that defy logic. It's as if something massive, something unseen, has been sculpting their motion from the shadows. In observatories scattered across Chile, Hawaii, and Antarctica, telescopes scan the deep cold. They trace each icy wanderer's journey, recording subtle wobbles in orbit. One by one, anomalies appear, Sedna 2012 VP 113, and others, each following paths too distant to be shaped by Neptune alone. They move as though in a slow, synchronized dance, their aphelia, farthest points from the sun, aligned in an eerie symmetry. Some scientists whisper of Planet 9. Others call it superstition. But the math does not sleep. Simulations of orbital dynamics show that the odds of such alignments happening by chance are tiny, perhaps 1 in thousands. Something heavy must be out there, its gravity whispering through the dark, curving space itself. The narrator's tone softens, almost meditative. Imagine these worlds as frozen beads on invisible strings, suspended in a cosmic current. They drift through silence, untouched by sunlight, yet responding to a pull no telescope can see. Their icy crusts glimmer faintly in distant starlight, like frost catching a candle's glow. Each one a messenger from the outer dark. The discovery of these anomalies did not happen overnight. For decades, astronomers cataloged trans-Neptunian objects, slowly realizing that the outer solar system was not random, it was sculpted. The early models of planetary formation could not explain it. Even with the gravitational influence of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune accounted for, the mathematics left a gap, a missing weight. Something unseen was bending the map. In the cold beyond Pluto, space is not empty. It is a sea of ice and memory. Each body tells a story written in frozen nitrogen, methane, and rock. Yet their stories share a strange rhythm, as though an ancient conductor still guides their motion. Planet 9's proposed orbit would lie hundreds of times farther from the Sun than Earth, completing one full revolution in perhaps 10,000 years. If it exists, its presence would explain the tilts, the warps, and the improbable clustering of these objects. But then comes the quiet contradiction. If such a planet truly exerts this much influence, why hasn't it been seen? The narrator's voice drops lower, almost a whisper. Our telescopes have swept these regions again and again. They've seen the faintest glimmers of galaxies billions of light years away, yet Planet 9 remains hidden in our own backyard. Perhaps it is too dark. Perhaps it reflects almost no light, covered in soot-like frost. Or perhaps its orbit is angled just enough to hide behind the Milky Way's dense backdrop, lost among countless stars. And yet, a few suggest something else, an older idea, one both poetic and unnerving, that Planet 9 might not be a planet at all. Here, the tone drifts from science into speculation. Could this influence come from a relic of another system, an ancient brown dwarf captured by our sun's gravity eons ago? Or could it be something more abstract? A region where gravity behaves differently, a pocket of spacetime twisted by cosmic history? In the cold mathematics of physics, such ideas sound unlikely. But in the quiet of night, when the stars blur into mist, imagination feels as real as observation. The narrator describes the cosmic landscape as a frozen ocean. Each comet's path ripples outward like waves meeting invisible shores. These ripples, faint yet measurable, speak of a force beneath the surface. A shadow current moving slowly through the ice. Perhaps it is a memory of formation, an echo of the time when the solar system was young and full of collisions. Or perhaps it's something that still moves among us, unseen, steady, and ancient. The most curious orbits belong to objects that seem to tilt backward, revolving in the opposite direction from the planets. These retrograde bodies feel as though they were caught mid-drift, captured by something unseen. When plotted together, they form a faint arc pointing toward a region of sky where no confirmed planet resides. The narrator likens this to a constellation drawn not by light, but by gravity's ink. Data continues to arrive, each new observation both clarifying and deepening the mystery. Some models show Planet 9 as 10 times the mass of Earth, others as a smaller, dense super-Earth. But a growing group of scientists wonder if we're chasing the wrong shape altogether. Maybe it's not a planet but a swarm, a cluster of small, unseen bodies working together to mimic the gravity of one giant one. The voice grows slower now, reflective. Human understanding often finds patterns where none exist. Yet sometimes those patterns are real, waiting for us to notice. The anomalies in the ice are more than numbers, they are fingerprints on the edge of our cosmic map. They tell us that the solar system is not done surprising us. It still breathes, still moves, still hides stories beyond our comprehension. In the silence beyond Pluto, every drift of dust is part of a story billions of years in the making. The narrator reminds us that discovery often begins in confusion. The things we call errors, noise, or anomalies are sometimes the universe whispering truths in a language we haven't yet learned to read. The scene fades into soft starlight. The music slows, echoing like distant wind over frozen plains. Perhaps, the narrator murmurs, Planet 9's influence isn't gravitational at all, but historical. Maybe what we're detecting is not a planet's pull but a memory, a leftover motion from something that once passed through long ago. Something older than the solar system itself. The stars shimmer in the dark, each one a possible answer, each one a question left unspoken. The narrator pauses. Perhaps what we call Planet 9, the voice whispers, is not a planet at all, but the echo of something older. And as the sound fades, the vastness remains, a silence so deep it hums, holding a secret still waiting to be understood. Out beyond Neptune, where the sun's light fades into a cold whisper, astronomers believe something vast drifts unseen. They call it Planet 9, a world that may not even be a planet at all. The story begins not with proof but with absence. Something tugs at the orbits of icy bodies far from the sun, bending their paths in ways that defy reason. And yet, no telescope has ever caught its glow. It's as if the universe left a footprint, but the traveler vanished. Some say this phantom planet could be a failed star, a brown dwarf too small to ignite but too massive to ignore. It would be ancient and dim, its light escaping only in the faint warmth of infrared. Others imagine it as a wandering orphan, a rogue planet captured long ago by the sun's gravity, trapped in our system's outskirts like a ghost refusing to leave a home it never knew. The narrator's tone slows, soft and curious, as though describing a memory more than a theory. Infrared telescopes like WISE and Spitzer have searched the skies, their sensors tuned to the heat of hidden worlds. They found hints, a shimmer, a faint anomaly, then nothing. Some scientists dismissed it as background noise, others wondered if the signal was real but fleeting. After all, if Planet 9 lies hundreds of billions of miles away, its motion would be slower than imagination itself. So slow that a human lifetime would not be enough to see it move. Imagine standing on the edge of our solar frontier. Around you, the stars seem fixed in an endless night. Far off, the sun is only a bright dot, its warmth a forgotten dream. Somewhere in that black expanse, a giant body moves silently, its orbit measured not in years but in epochs. Dust clings to its atmosphere, frozen storms swirl across an invisible surface. To the human eye, it is nothing, an empty patch of sky. But to gravity it is undeniable. The invisible hand guiding the dance of worlds. The narrator breathes softly. If this planet exists, it is an ancient traveler older than memory. Some astrophysicists believe it formed near Jupiter and Saturn, flung outward by their gravitational might during the solar system's youth. Others think it was a cosmic vagabond, a planet born near another star, stolen by our sun in a quiet act of celestial theft. Each theory feels like a story half remembered and none are complete. The truth drifts between them, like mist over an unlit ocean. The speculative tone deepens. Perhaps Planet 9 is neither planet nor star, but something stranger. A fragment of cosmic architecture, a remnant of creation itself. In the earliest days of the solar system, billions of bodies collided and coalesced. What if this one simply never joined the others? What if it lingered at the edge, patient and silent, a watcher rather than a participant? The scene grows more dreamlike. The narrator describes how, in ancient myth, invisible gods shaped destinies from the shadows. Today, science tells the same story through the mathematics of orbits. Both speak of unseen forces that sculpt the visible world. The orbits of distant trans-Neptunian objects, like Sedna and 2012 VP-113, trace arcs that seem guided by a hidden hand. Their alignments whisper of something massive beyond them, something pulling from afar. But every time telescopes turn toward that dark region they find nothing. Just cold starlight and silence. Some astronomers say the planet may not reflect enough light to be seen. Others whisper of deeper reasons. Perhaps it is cloaked in dust, or perhaps its very existence flickers between states, there but only when the universe allows it to be. In the calm tone of a bedtime storyteller, the narrator reflects on our human need for mysteries that linger. We look into darkness, the voice says, and when we find nothing we call it a secret. Planet 9's allure lies not in proof, but in the space between questions. It's a symbol of how discovery always begins with doubt. Infrared surveys continue, their spectrographs scanning billions of points of light. Each faint detection could be a cosmic false alarm, or the first glimpse of the phantom itself. And still, year after year, the data returns, empty yet filled with possibility. Astronomers map invisible boundaries, building gravitational models like cartographers drawing continents from wind. The chapter slows, shifting from fact to reflection. Maybe Planet 9 is less a world and more an idea, a projection of our longing for completion, for symmetry in the solar system's design. Every orbit we measure feels incomplete without it, every gravitational riddle points toward something that might never reveal itself. The narrator's voice lowers to a near whisper. What if we already passed it once? Some models suggest that the object could lie in the opposite direction we've been searching, hidden behind the glare of the Milky Way's crowded star fields. There, among billions of suns, even a planet the size of Neptune could vanish like a pebble in an ocean of light. The story folds into silence. The universe, after all, is not obligated to be seen. Some truths stay veiled, not because they are forbidden but because they are still becoming. Maybe the phantom planet is one of them, an unfinished chapter in the solar system's own story. As the music softens, the narrator offers one final image, a slow orbit traced across the ages, like the path of a dream circling its own shadow. We may never see Planet 9 with our eyes, but its pull, faint, persistent, undeniable, reminds us that even the unseen leaves its mark. And as the listener drifts, the last words fade into the dark. If it was never ours, why does its pull still bind us? The night sky holds its secrets in silence. Beyond the known planets, beyond the faint orbits of icy debris, lies a mystery wrapped not in conspiracy, but in uncertainty. Some believe that what scientists aren't telling us about Planet 9 is not an act of concealment, but an admission of how little we truly understand. In a universe measured by light, the absence of light becomes its own form of truth. The narrator's tone is calm, reflective. In the vast archives of observatories around the world, researchers have gathered thousands of faint data points, tiny specks of light traced across. Digital spectrographs. They map the motions of distant bodies, trying to find consistency, an anchor. But Planet 9 remains a ghost on the horizon, a pole without a face. The evidence whispers, never shouts. When astronomers talk of uncertainty, it is not reluctance, it is reverence. Science moves slowly, demanding patience, demanding proof. The voice explains how the orbits of trans-Neptunian objects show peculiar clustering, how mathematical simulations reveal the fingerprints of something immense. Yet cameras and telescopes see nothing. It's like finding a footprint with no trail, a tide with no moon. The chapter slows into imagery. Imagine the solar wind moving through the Kuiper belt, dust drifting like powdered glass, the cold blue light of the sun barely reaching. Somewhere within that cradle of silence, a shadow curves space ever so slightly. Not a visible body but a distortion, an unseen gravity. The story turns to how data hides its own mysteries. Every pixel captured by modern telescopes holds 1,000 variables. Noise, cosmic rays, reflection artifacts. Scientists comb through it all, chasing anomalies that might only exist because of the instrument itself. The narrator compares this search to listening for a heartbeat in a hurricane. Sometimes what's missing feels louder than what's there. When the phrase "what scientists aren't telling us" emerges, it carries no accusation, only a gentle reminder. Knowledge is not withheld from the public, it's withheld by nature. The cosmos reveals itself in fragments, and humans, fragile and hopeful, stitch those fragments into stories. The blackness beyond Neptune is not deceit, it's the universe teaching us humility. The narrator's voice softens as it reflects on the paradox of discovery. Scientists must first believe in possibility before proving it. Many theories die quietly in notebooks and journals, never confirmed, never denied. The hidden world of Planet 9 exists in that liminal space, half dream, half equation. It may be real, or it may simply be the shadow of our need to explain what we cannot yet see. Through this veil of uncertainty, the story lingers on the human element. Late nights in mountain observatories, coffee cooling beside glowing monitors, eyes scanning for motion among thousands of stars. Somewhere, a faint light flickers at the edge of a frame. The data is logged, reviewed, and questioned. Hours stretch into years. The scientists, too, live within their own orbits of doubt and wonder. The tone becomes intimate. Maybe, the narrator muses, the concealment we sense isn't in the data, but in the way truth unfolds, slowly, shyly, like dawn creeping across a frozen field. Science is not silence. It is the pause between questions, the inhale before understanding. As the chapter nears its end, the soundscape grows quieter. The listener imagines the outer solar system as a painting, starlight reflected on drifting ice, the faint hum of instruments buried in Antarctic snow, the low signal of radio waves stretching across billions of miles. Somewhere in that soft static lies the boundary between the known and the unknowable. The narrator concludes with a reflection that feels both scientific and poetic. The greatest discoveries are not those revealed instantly, but those that teach patience. What scientists may not tell us about Planet 9 is not secrecy, it's the slow art of learning how to listen to the dark. The voice fades into stillness. What if the unknown is not being hidden but still learning how to reveal itself? And in that lingering question, the silence deepens, soft, endless, waiting to be understood. Far beyond the faint rim of our solar system, where sunlight fades into a gray whisper, astronomers lift their gaze to other stars, listening for echoes of what we've come to call Planet 9. The mystery that haunts our skies may not belong to us alone. Across the galaxy, distant suns show traces of hidden giants, worlds with long, frozen orbits, drifting far from their stars like exiled moons. These are the echoes of other suns, faint but familiar, each repeating a note we've only begun to hear. For decades, telescopes have scanned the heavens for exoplanets, those distant travelers revealed not by light, but by their pull. When a star wobbles, when its glow dims in a repeating rhythm, something unseen moves around it. Sometimes the orbit lasts mere days, sometimes centuries. The slowest orbits, the coldest paths, remind scientists of the secret tug haunting our own outer system. Perhaps what we call Planet 9 is not a single anomaly, but a recurring pattern, a quiet design scattered throughout the galaxy. Each new discovery adds to this cosmic choir. The Kepler and TESS missions, like dreamers who never sleep, watch thousands of stars for years at a time. They catch whispers, a star's dimming heartbeat, a planet's faint transit. Among those signals are giants whose orbits stretch so far that they complete a single revolution only once every 1,000 years. These worlds drift like ancient wanderers, orbiting through silence, colder than memory itself. Astronomers describe them as super-Earths or mini-Neptunes, but names hardly matter. What binds them is distance. Worlds existing on the edge of darkness, massive enough to bend trajectories, quiet enough to stay unseen. Some are thought to be captured rogues, stolen from other star systems during their chaotic youth. Others may have formed in the cradle of their own stars, flung outward during planetary migrations. To the narrator, they seem less like accidents and more like echoes, repeated themes in the universe's vast song. The tone deepens, steady and warm. Across constellations, starlight bends in familiar ways. Observatories in Chile and Hawaii detect gravitational wobbles identical to those our sun displays. In distant systems, icy belts curve where something heavy hides. Astronomers plot those orbits and find geometry that mirrors our own. Inclined planes, clustered paths, tilted ellipses that all seem to whisper the same hidden design. Each new discovery strengthens a quiet idea. Maybe Planet 9 is not an exception but a universal rule. Imagine for a moment, a galaxy filled with such exiled giants, each tracing immense circles around their stars, invisible to all but gravity's touch. They drift through centuries, unlit but powerful, shepherding clouds of comets and dust. Their presence sculpts the fates of smaller worlds, shaping what survives and what burns away. They are the architects of balance, the unseen custodians of order at the edge of chaos. The narrator's voice softens as if speaking in reverence. There's comfort in knowing our mystery has company. We are not the only ones searching for the invisible. Other observers on other worlds might look out from their systems and sense their own hidden traveler, an unseen mass tugging on comets, twisting orbits, pulling their dreams outward into the dark. The same silence hums beneath all suns, the same unseen gravity tying them together like a secret language of the cosmos. Yet even with this familiarity, the enigma deepens. Why do these outer worlds exist at all? Standard models of planet formation struggle to explain them. They live too far from their stars, where the solar wind is weak and dust too sparse to build planets. Their orbits defy simple logic, hinting at some early violence. Perhaps a stellar encounter, perhaps a collision, perhaps something we have yet to imagine. Each explanation feels partial, like a chord missing its final note. As telescopes improve, astronomers begin to notice patterns not only in position but in rhythm. These distant systems seem to share harmonies, ratios between orbital periods that repeat across the sky. The narrator compares it to hearing the same melody echo from 1,000 instruments. Maybe the universe doesn't just build planets, it composes them. From the calm of deep space, the mind drifts to wonder. Could Planet 9's elusive orbit be part of this grand harmony? Is its shadow a single instrument in a galactic symphony, playing notes of gravity so deep we've only now begun to feel them? The story slows, letting silence breathe. Light years away, one faint star in the constellation Eridanus hosts a world eerily similar to our hypothetical Planet 9. It is 10 times the mass of Earth, orbiting in near total darkness. Its discovery, though recent, feels ancient, like a reflection of our own mystery mirrored through time. The narrator describes it as a cosmic reply, as though the universe, having heard our question, chose to answer in kind. For those who listen to the night sky, these parallels inspire a fragile kind of hope. If other stars host their own distant giants, then we are not alone in our search for the unseen. Somewhere, someone might be staring outward, wondering about their own missing world, tracing its path through silence and starlight just as we do. In that thought lies a strange connection, between systems, between species, between all who gaze upward. The same forces shaping their shadows shape ours. Every orbit is a thread, every discovery a shared dream. Perhaps this is the real message of Planet 9. Not that something hides in our darkness, but that all darkness hides something worth finding. The chapter drifts toward closure, soft as dust in a beam of starlight. Planet 9's mystery feels smaller now, not in scale but in solitude. It belongs to a greater story, one written across galaxies in the slow language of gravity and time. As the narrator's voice fades, there's one last whisper, gentle, resonant, and filled with awe. Maybe Planet 9 isn't alone. Maybe it's part of a symphony we've just begun to hear, and the next note is already on its way. In the quiet halls of observatories scattered across the world, astronomers stare at screens filled with faint dots, stars frozen in deep exposures of the sky. Every so often one of those dots drifts. Not much, just a whisper of motion, almost imperceptible. To the untrained eye it looks like noise, but to those who watch long enough, that movement means everything. Somewhere beyond Neptune's cold frontier, a shadow is shifting. Modern sky surveys, Pan-STARRS in Hawaii, the Subaru telescope in Japan, the Dark Energy Survey in Chile, capture billions of celestial objects every year. Computers compare frames taken days, months, and sometimes years apart. When two images don't quite match, astronomers hold their breath. Because motion means life. Means orbit. It means something is moving under the sun's command. Yet just as quickly as excitement builds, it fades. Many of these faint wanderers vanish when revisited, lost to the sheer vastness of the night. The narrator's voice softens, almost like a lullaby. Each frame of the universe is a brush stroke across a dark canvas. Between exposures, the sky itself shifts, and what we call discovery becomes the art of patience. A single pixel of light can spark months of analysis, sleepless nights spent chasing a ghost that never appears again. Planet 9's supposed shadow hides within this rhythm, appearing, disappearing, always at the edge of certainty. The tone slows further. Imagine being one of those scientists sitting before the monitor in the early hours, surrounded by hums of cooling fans and the distant wind outside the dome. You compare the images once more. One faint dot is out of place. You zoom in. Adjust brightness. For a moment it feels real. But the next night clouds move in and the data is gone. In the soft blue glow of the control room, science feels less like conquest and more like faith. The narrator explains how some of these movements arise from cosmic dust streaks or electronic noise. Others, however, follow trajectories too precise to dismiss. A few points of light appear again years later, moving slowly across the field, too slow for asteroids, too near for stars. They dance on the threshold between detection and imagination. Could one of them be Planet 9's reflection? Or are they echoes of something older, comets perturbed by gravity we cannot yet see? Astronomers call this work chasing transients. They know that most anomalies will fade away. Yet they continue. Because every now and then, a shadow becomes a world. Pluto was once a drifting smudge in a series of photographs from 1930. It took weeks for Clyde Tombaugh to notice it moved. Today, telescopes repeat that process automatically, taking thousands of digital Tombaughs each night. But the universe has grown trickier. It hides deeper. Its movements have slowed to glacial scales, and Planet 9, if it exists, might take 10,000 years to orbit once. The music of the cosmos slows with distance. Near the sun, planets race. Mercury blinks through its year in weeks. But beyond the Kuiper belt, motion becomes memory. It's as if the outer solar system drifts in dreamtime. Objects there move so slowly that their positions barely change within a human lifetime. To find one by movement alone is like detecting a glacier shifting by the width of a hair. And yet, in that slow rhythm, astronomers persist. The narrator's tone becomes contemplative. There's beauty in this futility, this endless search for motion among stillness. Every shift, every faint change, is a message written in starlight. The cosmos speaks not in sound but in subtle differences across time. The search for Planet 9 has become less about discovery and more about listening. About noticing the brush strokes between the stars. Sometimes there are near successes. In 2021, a survey detected a dim object moving unusually slow. Its path was long, stable, and aligned with models predicting Planet 9's orbit. But before it could be confirmed, weather interrupted. Later images found nothing. The object vanished, like mist dissolving at dawn. Some called it noise. Others called it a test, proof that the mystery is not done with us yet. Through all this, the narrator maintains calm, their voice threading science with poetry. The outer solar system is not empty, it's alive with debris, fragments, and forgotten travelers. Between these wanderers, gravity tugs faintly, forming patterns too soft for our instruments to fully read. When shadows move out there, it might not be one object. It might be the universe itself adjusting, a gentle correction in the great equation of space. To the human eye, motion is certainty. But in astronomy, motion can deceive. Cosmic rays strike sensors, creating false signals. Software errors mimic celestial drift. Even the Earth's wobble can blur positions across nights. Scientists must learn humility in the face of these illusions. Every movement could be real or not. It's a balance between hope and doubt, the two forces that guide discovery. As the narration softens toward its close, the imagery widens. The telescopes turn, cameras reset, and the domes hum in quiet rhythm. The night continues, endless and patient. Somewhere out there, an object might be moving still, slowly, deliberately, unseen. A flicker between frames. A signature in the dark. The voice lowers to a near whisper. When shadows move, it says, the universe is breathing. And in that breath lies a question so delicate it feels like a dream left unfinished. If shadows can move, could they also be watching? Far beyond Neptune, where sunlight thins into whispers and the solar system fades into near silence, lies the unseen orbit that may have shaped our planet's most dramatic stories. Astronomers call it Planet 9, an invisible traveler whose slow motion tugs at the orbits of comets, nudging them inward like faint ripples on a frozen lake. But among these scientists, some voices speak softly of another idea, one that ties this hidden world to life and death on Earth itself. They call it the Harbinger hypothesis. It begins with the comets. Each one a shard of ancient ice, they drift for eons until something, some distant force, alters their trajectories. They fall inward, blazing through the inner solar system as messengers of light and destruction. Most pass harmlessly, but a few have scarred the timeline of Earth. The narrator's tone softens, like breath over glass, describing how the Chicxulub impact ended the age of the dinosaurs, how smaller collisions stirred fires and winters that reshaped evolution. Each catastrophe seemed random, until mathematicians noticed a rhythm. Every 26 million years, give or take a few, the planet's fossil record shows a pulse of extinction, a cosmic heartbeat that refuses to fade. Scientists once dismissed it as coincidence. Others looked toward the stars for a cause. Could there be a celestial clockkeeper, something large, dark, and cold, whose orbit periodically disturbs the Oort cloud, flinging comets toward the inner worlds? The hypothesis is fragile, suspended between science and myth. The narrator lets the listener drift with the idea as if in a dream. Imagine a planet so distant its year lasts tens of thousands of hours, a silent wanderer completing its orbit once every epoch. Each time it swings closer to the sun, its gravity shakes the cloud of comets surrounding the solar system, sending icy fragments raining inward. For Earth, those brief storms may rewrite history. But not everyone agrees. Many researchers call it a mirage, patterns born of limited data, extinction curves drawn by human hands eager to find meaning in chaos. The cosmic clock, they argue, may tick only in our imagination. Yet even skepticism feels small against the scale of the unknown. The narrator compares it to listening for thunder on another continent. You may never hear the strike, only the faint vibration that follows. Planet 9's potential orbit, if real, lies hundreds of astronomical units from the Sun out there. The Sun is no brighter than a pale star. Its solar wind is weak, its warmth a memory. A planet so far away would glow only in infrared, faint as a ghost's breath. Telescopes sweep that region often, capturing pixel after pixel of static sky. Once in a while, something moves. Then it vanishes again, too slow, too faint, too patient for human timelines. The voice of the narrator lowers, almost a lullaby. If such a world exists, it says, its influence would be subtle but unrelenting, like the tide that pulls at the moon, like a memory that refuses to fade. The Harbinger hypothesis suggests that life's greatest catastrophes may not be accidents but intervals, each one part of a larger cycle we cannot yet measure. Perhaps every mass extinction is both an ending and a beginning, triggered by this hidden shepherd of comets. Yet to imagine such a role is to see Planet 9 not as a destroyer, but as a silent editor of life, erasing and rewriting over deep time. The music of narration drifts into thought. It recalls how Earth itself was born from impacts, how our moon was forged in collision, how water may have arrived on comets guided by distant gravity. Destruction and creation have always shared a single orbit. In that sense, the Harbinger is not malicious. It simply moves according to its nature, unaware of the fragile lives bathed in its consequences. A soft hum fills the background, like wind through an empty observatory. The narrator wonders, could human civilization one day witness the approach of such a comet storm again? Would we trace its source to that shadowed orbit and finally see Planet 9 glowing faintly against the black? Or would it remain invisible, its effects mistaken for chance? Some scientists now search for evidence buried in Antarctic ice, tiny beads of iridium, microscopic soot, and isotopic scars marking past impacts. Others model the gravitational map of the outer solar system, letting supercomputers predict where the next messenger might emerge. The data remains inconclusive. Yet the pattern persists, faint but rhythmic, like a heartbeat beneath static. And still, the narrator reminds us, our fear of celestial doom often hides something gentler, our longing for connection. To believe a planet could shape our destiny is to feel that we are part of the cosmic story, not merely its spectators. Planet 9, whether real or imagined, becomes a mirror for that desire. The voice softens again, settling into near silence. Perhaps, it muses, the Harbinger is not a planet at all, but the shadow of our need to find order in the unknown, to turn even extinction into meaning. The stars overhead remain indifferent, their light older than language. Somewhere beyond Pluto, an object, maybe a planet, maybe a myth, follows its path through a cradle of darkness. If it has influenced Earth before, it will do so again, though neither it nor we may ever notice. The final words drift like dust through starlight. If it once changed our history, could it do so again? And in that quiet uncertainty, the cosmos keeps its rhythm, steady, patient, eternal. The story turns inward now, away from telescopes, orbits, and gravitational equations and toward something quieter. The voice of the narrator softens, like the hum of a planet turning in its sleep. After all the searching, all the speculation about Planet 9's mass and path, a new idea begins to form. What if the real mystery was never out there? What if the shadow we've been chasing belongs not to a hidden world but to us? Human beings have always needed the unseen. In every age, the night sky has mirrored our curiosity and our fears. We trace constellations into meaning, paint faces onto the void, and give names to patterns that might not exist. The unknown is not our enemy, it is our oldest companion. The narrator describes this softly, the way light bends off a quiet sea. Planet 9 becomes less of an object and more of a reflection, something shaped by our longing to find order inside endlessness. In scientific terms, the search for Planet 9 began as pure math, a gravitational imbalance, a tug in the data. But mathematics, too, is a mirror. Equations reveal not only how the universe moves but how we think. When the models predict something unseen, it tells us as much about human imagination as it does about the cosmos. We are drawn to fill gaps, to complete the picture, to give form to silence. That is the nature of science. It is not concealment but patience. The narrator slows the rhythm, describing how researchers spend decades refining a single orbit, waiting for technology to catch up to theory. Theirs is not a secret of silence but one of discipline, a quiet belief that truth reveals itself in time. What scientists aren't telling us, the narrator murmurs, may simply be what they cannot yet say. In this calm realization, Planet 9's shadow becomes a metaphor for everything humanity still doesn't know and perhaps never will. Imagine looking up at the sky tonight. Somewhere beyond the pale shimmer of Neptune, a dark field stretches outward for billions of miles. In that stillness, we project our questions like beams of light. We ask what's hidden, what's missing, and what it means. But maybe the narrator suggests Planet 9 doesn't hide. Maybe we do, behind equations, behind expectations, behind the illusion that discovery always means control. A soft musical undertone seems to play through the words now, like a slow cello note under drifting stars. The camera of the imagination pans outward, past telescopes, past cities, past the luminous haze of the Milky Way, until the viewer is small again, floating between stars. In that vast silence, curiosity itself becomes the force of gravity, pulling thought and wonder into orbit around the unknown. The narrator recalls moments in scientific history where patience was mistaken for secrecy. When Galileo hesitated to publish what his glass lenses revealed, when Einstein's letters whispered of ideas too radical for their time, when data on distant planets waited decades for interpretation. Each pause was not deception but reverence, the quiet between discoveries that lets meaning breathe. Every unanswered question, the voice continues, is an invitation. The phrase drifts through the soundscape like dust through sunlight. The camera of the mind turns slowly toward Earth. Cities glow beneath clouds, each light a point of curiosity, a fragment of the same hunger that drives us to search for unseen worlds. The shadow of Planet 9, the narrator reflects, might be nothing more than the universe reminding us how much remains invisible, both beyond and within ourselves. Science is the language of observation, but belief is the music between the notes. To study the stars is to study the human condition. Patience, imperfection, persistence. When astronomers point their telescopes toward the darkness, they are also looking into their own reflection, hoping that by understanding the sky they might better understand the soul. The tone softens even further. The narrator describes the night sky as a mirror so vast it shows not our faces but our questions. We search the outer solar system for something that explains the tilt of distant orbits, the strange clustering of icy bodies. Yet what we truly seek may be a kind of reassurance, that the unknown can still surprise us, that the story of exploration isn't over. A gentle pause. The universe exhales. The narrator whispers that maybe, in our endless pursuit of shadows, we are really mapping our own reflection. The same pattern of longing repeated across millennia, from cave drawings of the stars to equations scribbled on observatory whiteboards. Curiosity is timeless, as old as the first spark of awareness. As the narration drifts towards silence, the imagery becomes faint and dreamlike. A lone telescope under a frost-covered dome, its lens catching the dim glow of a faraway sun. A scientist resting her head against cold glass, watching data scroll by in green light. A listener somewhere on Earth, closing their eyes and imagining the dark edges of the solar system stretching beyond sight. Perhaps the real secret, the narrator breathes, isn't out there at all. the thought settles like snow. The soft hum of the cosmos fades into stillness, leaving a single echo suspended between sound and silence. It's the part of us that keeps looking anyway. And in that silence, as stars turn slowly overhead, one could almost feel that another secret, quiet, patient, waiting, still lingers just beyond the edge of knowing. The stars tonight seem quieter, as though the universe itself is catching its breath. The solar system drifts through an ancient stillness, every orbit steady, every planet glowing softly in the endless dark. Out beyond Neptune, the black stretches further than thought can reach. There, in the cold outskirts of our celestial family, lies the mystery that has followed us for decades, Planet 9. Or perhaps, something that only wears its name like a mask. The narrator's voice moves slowly, like a telescope panning through silence. The search for Planet 9 began not with sight, but with math, with a subtle pull on distant icy bodies, tiny worlds whose orbits were ever so slightly wrong. Their alignment told a quiet story. Something large must be out there, something unseen but undeniably real. Astronomers called it a planet. Others whispered it was a shadow, the echo of a forgotten formation, a remnant of the sun's lost twin. Each new night of observation adds another brush stroke to the mystery, but never the full picture. The telescopes keep watching and still, nothing gleams where theory insists light should be. In science, this absence is its own kind of presence, a gravitational ghost shaping space with its invisible hand. The thought is both thrilling and unsettling. The narrator pauses. Imagine standing on the frozen edge of Pluto's orbit. The sun is no brighter than a star, its warmth barely reaching your gloved hand. The wind carries no sound. You look outward and see nothing. No planet, no glow, just a faint distortion like a shimmer in the dark. Perhaps that's all Planet 9 will ever be. A suggestion, a question suspended in the void. As the story unfolds, the tone softens. Scientists still look upward, but their voices grow quieter. They know the outer system hides secrets not easily revealed. The Kuiper belt stretches like a forgotten sea of ice and stone, its orbiting fragments whispering their loyalties to something unknown. The narrator describes these frozen travelers as messengers, tracing invisible orbits in perfect silence. And yet, there is no frustration in this search, only wonder. The pursuit itself has become the destination. To search for Planet 9 is to confront the limits of knowing, to stand on the border between light and shadow and realize how thin that line truly is. Perhaps that is what the shadow means, not deception, not secrecy, but reflection. The darkness beyond Neptune mirrors the darkness within human curiosity. Vast, unending, beautiful in its mystery. Each unanswered question becomes a small orbit of its own, circling the gravity of wonder. The narrator's voice drifts lower, the pace slowing like a heartbeat at rest. The instruments keep scanning. The algorithms keep refining. Somewhere in that ocean of data, a faint pattern flickers, too weak to confirm, too strong to ignore. Some call it coincidence, others call it evidence. Science is patient. The universe even more so. There is something deeply human about the act of searching for something that refuses to be found. The same impulse that drove early astronomers to trace comets by candlelight now drives spacecraft to scan the heavens with radio eyes. Across centuries, curiosity has not dimmed, it has simply changed instruments. In this calm we find meaning. Planet 9's mystery is no longer about discovery, it is about acceptance, the understanding that some truths may forever remain just out of reach. The narrator compares it to standing on a shoreline at night, watching waves break in the dark. You can hear them, feel their rhythm, but never see where they begin. The ocean of space behaves the same way. Some scientists suggest Planet 9 might not exist at all, that its shadow is merely a trick of data, a statistical echo born of small numbers and wishful thinking. But even that explanation holds beauty. For if the universe can trick us into imagining new worlds, perhaps imagination itself is a form of gravity, the unseen force that keeps us searching. The voice turns thoughtful. Every time we look outward, we learn something inward. The silence between stars teaches patience. The faint light of a comet teaches humility. Planet 9's shadow, whether real or not, has already given us both. And so, the solar system rests once more in its cradle of silence. The planets continue their endless orbits, loyal to the sun's slow heartbeat. Beyond them, the unknown still waits, unhurried, unbothered by our need to define it. The narrator invites the listener to imagine that quiet horizon, where sunlight fades into black, and possibilities hum softly beneath the cosmic wind. Maybe Planet 9 exists, maybe it doesn't, maybe the truth is something we can't yet name. But the act of wondering, that gentle reaching into the dark, is what keeps the human story alive. Curiosity is the shadow we cast upon the universe, and through it we learn who we are. As the narration fades, the words dissolve into warmth. As you drift into sleep, the voice murmurs, "Remember, the unknown has always been our greatest teacher." The stars seem to shimmer a little brighter in response, as if the darkness itself agrees. And somewhere, far beyond Neptune's lonely orbit, the shadow of something vast and beautiful continues to move, unseen, unhurried, waiting to be understood.